The Ronde Van Vlanderen, or the Tour of Flanders, is a one-day cycle race around the Flanders region of Belgium. It's famous for steep cobbled climbs and beautiful scenery. On the weekend it happens, the town of Oudenaarde becomes a cycle party in anticipation of the race on the Sunday. On the Saturday, a ride around the route for amateurs is available as a paid-for sportive, with marshals, signage and support. Various distances are available to suit ability, and I chose to ride the 128km route along with a few friends. Here I'll show most of the route and describe the experience, so you can see if it's a challenge you'd like to take on yourself.
Bonne chance.
The first climb of any note is this one, the Wolvenberg, and it pretty quickly shows you what this ride is going to be about. This gets up to maybe 18-19% at the steepest point, but like most of the climbs on the ride, it doesn't last very long.
Taste the things to come.
And then as soon as that climb's over with, you are straight into the cobbles. This is Karel-Martelstraat, and if you've not ridden on these cobbles before, you're in for quite a shock because you don't expect them to be quite this violent. And you hit them and it's not like riding on canal towpaths or anything I'm used to in the UK. It really is hard, sharp and quite harsh on the bikes. So I was very quickly trying to get off the cobbles and into any gullies or any pavements or anything else that I could find. I didn't quite understand why everybody wasn't doing this. Perhaps they just enjoyed staying on the cobbles, or they thought that they wouldn't be able to stay in the gullies or on the pavements. But yes, the cobbles got pretty old pretty quickly, unfortunately. And then the first of quite a few magnificent descents This one didn't last very long, it was straight into another little climb again. And then very quickly you were onto the first of the bergs. This is the Molenberg, and it's the archetypal climb of what you expect from a tour of Flanders. It's steep, narrow, not very long, cobbled climb, and really enjoyable. A bit harsh on the bike again on the cobbles, but it's great fun. Just throwing yourself against the steep climb and knowing that it doesn't last very long.
PSI was the right choice. Yeah, that's it. That little village with the downhill cobbles, I completely just got up and just started letting the whole bike vibrate. Go these little gully, hopefully. Like riding on rollers, this is. It's like, don't think about it too much, just
The first feed station was after only 25k, and like the other two feed stations, it was well stocked, everything that you needed, mechanical support, lots of room, just absolutely perfect. this was an absolutely stunning little town to ride through called Rozebeke. Really pretty place that I just had to film. After about 70 kilometres, you are hurtling down towards Oudenaarde on the south side of the river for the next food stop. There were a lot of long, steady downhills that were absolutely thrilling to go down, and it seemed almost as if you were going downhill a lot more than you were going uphill, because the climbs were over quite quickly, and because they were steep they didn't last very long, and then once you got to the top of the places it was a lot of rolling downhill at speed. So absolutely perfect combination. So this is food stop number 2, pretty much the same as the first one. Lots of supplies, lots of drinks, isotonic drinks, gels, energy bars, everything that you could want, fruit, etc. Really well stocked, really well laid out. Very soon after the stop, you are then on your way to the Koppenberg, and as we got here, we were told that it was an hour wait to get to the Koppenberg, because they were setting riders off in groups, but also there was a medical emergency on the Koppenberg that they had to close it for a little while. But we waited, and it was actually only about 20 minutes that we was just standing in that queue, and pretty soon we rolled towards the bottom of the Koppenberg just to have a go on it. It's basically a fairground ride on a bike. You don't know whether you're going to get up it or not, but you just might as well have a try. And it was quite an experience. Riding up the Koppenberg, there were quite a few incidents like this one here. If you watch in the middle, some guy somehow falls over, knocks into another guy, then plants his foot and twists his ankle, and looks like he does himself a bit of damage. Hopefully he was okay, but there were quite a few incidents like that going up the Koppenberg, where somebody would fall over, take somebody else out, or they would swerve out of the line, somebody else would have to brake. And once you stop on a 20% incline, it's pretty difficult to get started again. The guy I was riding with, who comes past me in the moment on the left, also called Darren, he didn't manage to make it up to the top because he got ahead of me and got into some traffic, and unfortunately had to dismount. I stayed back a little bit and was going a little bit slower than him, and managed to avoid all of this traffic, which is just coming into view here. So yeah, pitching right up now, getting towards 30%. So lots of people dismounting and pushing here, and thankfully this guy in front of me manages to get through the gap in the middle, and then the gap starts closing, so I shout middle, middle, to stop them walking in my way, because that was the only chance of me getting through. And after that it seemed to slightly ease off, and at this sort of point I knew as long as I could avoid traffic I could get to the top, so it's about here where I get out of the saddle. Do it that way. And this ride I didn't really want to put out any huge power. I didn't know what I needed to conserve for the end, so I just took it all really steady, and it worked out really well for me. As I said earlier, the fantastic thing about this route is that for every steep climb that you do, you get a fantastic long descent that has a much shallower gradient, so you can just have a rest, sit forward and roll down at speed, loving every moment of it.
Yeah.
I've been up worse. I mean, I know it's not cobble, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking that one of you, you know.
And now heading towards the final food stop, we're coming down towards Ronse, and again another incredible descent. I was starting to get in the zone a little bit here and getting really excited about going past people. Just managed to avoid this guy here, the marshal on the corner. Didn't mean to get quite that close to him. Yeah, putting out much more power going down the hills than I did going up the hills. It shows which parts I enjoy more. By this point we're really starting to lean over into the corners.
I know, yeah.
And this is the final food stop at Ronse. Exactly the same as the other two. Brilliantly organised, supplies everywhere, all food that you want, including these really nice waffles, loads of waffles.
Yeah, please.
Here now is the beginning of the second of the big three most recognisable climbs. This is Oude Kwaremont, and in this year's race this is where Tadej Pogacar dropped everyone else and rode to victory. And it starts off smooth by some campsites, but then pretty soon it changes to cobbles and pitches up a little bit. The cobbles on this one just as rough as everything else. Kwaremont was brilliant because it had all of these grandstands and marquees and bars ready for the race the next day, so there was a bit of a party atmosphere up there already.
It is, mate. Oh, long walk. Halfway.
Another event shelter there, another marquee. Shows that we're going towards the third of the big three. This is the Paterberg. We're going along and you've suddenly got a sharp right turn where everybody stops. You have to avoid going into other people. And a little bit like the Koppenberg, it doesn't get very steep at the start. But then it pitches up to 20-25% I think in places. But it is so short that it's over in no time. My gearing wasn't quite good enough for me to be able to spin up these climbs, but I was still able to just sit back on the saddle a little bit, push my legs away from me, really slow cadence, keep the heart rate down, low effort, and avoid trouble, and got to the top of all of them without any real problem. On all of these sharp climbs, the only major difficulty was avoiding people swerving out or falling over or pushing their bike right in the middle.
de rijden, dat is een ongelooflijk niveau, wordt hij verwacht. Op de beklimming van de Paterberg. Niveau de regio. Was vroeger een meisje.
I really did feel like having a go at this guy in the blue, because if you're pushing your bike, don't do it right in the middle. Just getting up here to the steepest part. This camera doesn't really do it justice, but this part really is steep.
Kijk eens aan, zien we komen dan, zien we komen hier de bloed. Go! De laatste begroeping in de Paterberg. Precies te gaan, wat een vitesse. En als je moet afstappen, als je niet naar de rechterkant van de weg, dan kan blijven fietsen alsjeblieft. Last goal riding here, if you need to step off, go to the right side, I know it looks strange, but this is the side that goes right in the car. Blijf aan die rechterkant alsjeblieft. Stay at the right side if you need to step off. En het is bang wachten op die bodenrijkers, dan en dan, en fietsen er nog iets van. En Frankje en Rudy zonder die voor die plek waar er niet komen. Als je moet afstaan aan de rechterkant, dan die baan vrij alsjeblieft. Stay at the right side if you need to step off. We gaan alsjeblieft met die bodenrijkers, die stappen weg komen, en fietsen er snel en doen er niet.
Finally, after some more thrilling descents, we cycled 10 kilometers flat to the finish. This was an absolutely incredible ride. I can't remember anything that I didn't enjoy about it. The climbs weren't difficult, the descents were amazing, organisation absolutely brilliant, and just to be in the middle of a cycling party for the weekend was fantastic.
You guys are the finishers of the Tour of Flanders 2025! Woo!
There we go.
Wow. Woo!